Welcome to this second video of the Horizon Europe series. It will focus on the European Innovation Council as one of the most innovative activities happening in this new period for European R&I, covering from year 2021 to year 2027. In the previous video, we were answering to the questions: what is Horizon Europe, what is inside, how does it work in general terms? We saw it is structured in three pillars, one of them called Innovative Europe. It is inside this pillar where we can find the European Innovation Council, which is the focus for today. As we explained in the past, it mirrors the already consolidated European Research Council, to which we will devote a different video. We also saw the different instruments Horizon Europe was planning to use to support the activities along the research, technology development and innovation pathway. To materialize new knowledge into technologies, convert this into products and take these products to society and markets. Well, these will be the instruments to be managed by the European Innovation Council: the Eic Pathfinder, the Eic Transition and the Eic Accelerator. And we can see there will be bridges, synergies with other instruments, particularly those managed by the European Research Council and the European Institute of Innovation and Technology, the EIT. The European Innovation Council is not 100% new. It has been piloted in the last 2-3 years within Eic 2020 program. In the following diagram, we can see the instruments that started to be piloted within the European Innovation Council from year 2018. Initially, they started to drive an instrument called Instrument for SMEs, devoted to support small and medium companies in launching to the markets disruptive new products with high potential for growth. They also started to drive an instrument called Fast Track to Innovation, with the same focus as the instrument for SMEs, but for projects not only driven by SMEs, but by small consortia of companies of different sizes, maybe also working with R&D developers. At the very end of Horizon 2020, they started to drive also a group of instruments called FET, Future and Emerging Technologies, which were placed in the very other side of the TRL scale, at the very beginning of the development of radically new technologies. In Horizon Europe, these instruments will be consolidated within the European Innovation Council with different names and with different refinements. Also, it is made sure that there is no gap left empty in this TRL scale from knowledge to markets of very disruptive technologies with high potential for growth. And finally, there are these synergies to be sought with ERC, EIT, and also the efforts from countries and particular regions, maybe also through European funds. Let's look now into each of the instruments to be managed by the EIC during Horizon Europe. The first one is Eic Pathfinder. What does it look for? It looks for disruptive visions towards new technologies, to open up new technological horizons with a solid base, mainly scientific, and very high potential for impact. Over technologies, for sure, because we are opening new horizons, completely long-term new horizons, but also over society, environment, or industry. Since the technological development is growing more and more complex over the time, and also the impact over society and industries and environment, these projects are required to be pluridisciplinary, implying engaging the different disciplines needed to tackle complexity and to tackle the challenge, which will be very heterogeneous. We are not talking about different areas of chemistry. We are talking about chemistry with ICT with social sciences, just to give you an example. And also multi-stakeholder, because complexity is also related to the different perspectives brought, for example, by research and development developers with high-tech SMEs, just to give you an example. Also clinicians, associations, etc. Eic Pathfinder supports projects from Tier 1 to, from the formulation of the vision, to Tier 4, which is a first prototype of the technology at laboratory scale, a proof of concept. There are two modalities of Eic Pathfinder. Pathfinder Open, for which there is no thematic focus predefined by the call. It is up to the applicants to propose. And Eic Pathfinder Challenges, for which wide scope, particular areas, focus areas are defined and you need to fit in it to be able to apply. Eic Pathfinder projects are to be developed in small consortia of different stakeholders in at least 3 countries of the list of participant countries in Horizon Europe, while Pathfinder Challenges projects can be individual. It depends on the call, and you need to read the call to be able to assess whether this possibility exists or not. Pathfinder Open projects will be a little bit smaller, 3 million, Challenges a little bit bigger, 4 million. In average, they take 3 years, maybe 4. They will be supported with a grant covering 100% of the costs for all participants. And it is planned that there will be 2 calls per year, hopefully, but for example, in 2021, there will only be time for 1. For you to understand the concept, the aim of Eic Pathfinder is to set the rules of technological sequoias that can, in the end, in the long term, create shifts of paradigms or system. Then we have the Eic Transition. What does it search for? Eic Transition will support Pathfinder or FET or ERC technologies in crossing the valley of death that we were describing in the previous video. This gives me the opportunity to explain that Eic Pathfinder is the continuation of the previously called FET projects, FET program, Future and Emerging Technologies. It continues this program more or less in the same way it was done in the past, for those of you that are familiarized with it. Any Pathfinder or FET or ERC technology? No. Only those that can transform into good technological entrepreneurship initiatives. This means that for Pathfinder and FET projects, they need to be able to apply to the Eic Transition. They need to have at least 12 months of life. They need to have evolved enough in the development of the technology they foresee. Or not to have finished more than 24 months ago, so they can still be considered disruptive. And for ERC technologies, they need to prove that they have the willingness to go forward along the scale of technology readiness levels. Which ERC projects show this willingness? A particular type called ERC proof of concept. These show the potential to become good technological entrepreneurship initiatives. Only these projects that fulfill all these requirements can actually apply to the Eic Transition. In the future, they might open the door to more, but they want to keep it fully focused on supporting technologies that they have funded in the past towards markets and high growth, towards the Eic accelerator that we will see in a minute. And they want these projects to have good chances to keep being funded, This is why they don't want to open the door too much. Otherwise, the success rate, the number of projects they fund in relation to the number of proposals that they receive will drop. And this is something that they want to prevent from happening in the case of EIC transition. EIC transition will take these technologies from the prototype at laboratory scale, TRL4, to TRL6, which is a prototype, not of a technology as it starts from, but of a product, which means matching the technology with a particular area of application, a particular market. And they will have a prototype of this technology applied in this particular market for a particular purpose, tested in at least relevant environment. Maybe not real, not yet real, but relevant enough. At TRL6, these projects are considered to reach seed investing readiness. They are ready for the entrance of the very early stage private investors, such as business angels. Again, there are two modalities: EIC transition open with no thematic focus, EIC transition challenges, for which the Commission defines certain focuses where they want to make sure there will be projects. They can be either individual or developed by a small consortia of maximum 5 partners, and this is the continuation that remains from the previously called Fast Track to Innovation instrument. They are planned to be projects of no more than 2.5 million euros, although they are open to exceptions and they will last in average 2 to 3 years. Support will be given in the form of grants covering 100% of the costs to all participants, and they are also planning to have 2 calls per year, hopefully, although in 2021 there will only be time for 1 call. And I have skipped one sentence, which is, and start the needed technology transference processes to achieve these entrepreneurial initiatives. What does this mean? It means that EIC transition is a transition from Pathfinder to Accelerator, from technology to markets. This means, if you remember what was said in the previous video, that the players also need to change, because in Pathfinder the main players are the R&D developers, researchers from universities and research centers. But towards the markets we need new stakeholders, which are companies. Maybe they were also in Pathfinder, maybe not. But normally when they participate in Pathfinder, they are focused on a particular activity within the project. Now we need to either engage them further, if they were already there, or engage them newly, if they weren't before, or have the participant researchers from Pathfinder or ERC creating a spin-off, a spin-out, or some way of company that will actually take the results to the market. Maybe they have created this company before applying to the EIC transition, maybe not. If they haven't, they will have to do it during the EIC transition project, and the related costs could be covered by the grant. Is it better to have done it before applying or not? It doesn't matter, whatever makes more sense to the particular project. Is it better to create a spin-off or a spin-out or a joint venture with the participants in the EIC Pathfinder or the ERC project? Or is it better to engage an already existing company? It doesn't matter, whatever makes more sense to the particular project, its technology, and the business ahead. And to finish, be aware that we are saying that EIC transition will only fund Pathfinder or FET or ERC proof of concept technologies, not consortia. This doesn't mean that the same consortia that participating in the predecessor project needs to apply to the Eic transition. It can be only part of the partners, those that have the willingness, the dream to move forward in the TRL level, in the TRL scale, together with other players that maybe are needed for transforming the technology into a product and taking it to the market, and that didn't make sense to participate in the previous project. Or maybe it's a completely new consortia with completely new partners uptaking the technology that was developed in the Pathfinder, FET or ERC project. In this case, in any case, they all need to prove that they really have the rights to evolve this technology, to keep working on it towards the market. Either because they are the owners of this technology from the previous project, or because they have the proper licensing agreements or pre-agreements to have these rights and leverage them during the Eic transition project. As a conclusion, we can say that Eic transition goes from deep tech research to de-risk to a certain level visionary innovations, which means products, technologies matched with particular applications, and scale-up potentials, which means markets. This means that during the Eic transition, the trinomial technology product market will be fully developed and prepared for the scale-up at market level. This decision is not trivial. There are many examples in history of technologies that were merged with particular products and markets and they failed completely, and the same technology when matched to a different application and market became a unicorn with time enough. Pathfinder, FET or ERC proof of concept projects need to choose an application area and define at least the coupled technology product and define properly the target market during the Eic transition project. In the end, we have the Eic accelerator. What does it search for? Eic accelerator will try to accelerate the commercialization of new products. It is not going to make it possible. It is going to accelerate it, to make it faster, and therefore also accelerate the growth of the company, mainly SMEs, small and medium enterprises, but also mid-caps, small mid-caps, which goes from 250 employees to 500 employees. And also small companies, new companies created in the European Union by foreign capital. Any new product? No. Only those that are based on deep tech and which prove great potential for growth. And also that this growth will be sustainable at international level. This is what they call market creating opportunities. Somehow, their understanding is that new products will not reach high growth, sustainable in the long term at international level unless they are based on deep tech, which is really hard to copy, and they are disruptive enough to create a new market or to radically change the rules of an existing market so that they can become the leaders at international level. Only this will somehow give the opportunity for the company to reach high growth rates during many years, and therefore create for Europe the opportunity for leadership, competitiveness, and employment. Of course, such projects will be high risk, and therefore it will be very hard for them to attract enough investment for them to really exploit, to really boost. This risk might not be technological risk. In fact, this level of risk is already reduced because we are starting at TRL 6. But there are other components of risk: strategic risk, commercial risk, etc. In the end, these projects will finish at TRL 9, the final level of technology readiness, already starting to commercialize the product in the markets. Again, there are two modalities: EIC Accelerator Open with no guideline on the topic, EIC Accelerator Challenges in certain areas for which the European Commission wants to assure that there will be projects. And they are always individual projects by the company. In the case of SMEs, for example, spin-offs or startups coming from the EIC transition or wherever they come from, they will need to prove that they have complete teams to the challenge, not only the technological experts, but also those with experience in selling this type of products or in selling in these target markets, in whatever they are, their target markets. The financial support given by the EIC Accelerator is in the form of blended funding. There is a part of grant from $500,000 to $2.5 million, covering 70% of the costs of the company for the project, and not going beyond TRL 8 because commercial activities cannot be granted. And the rest will be in the form of equity investment by the Commission in the company, becoming a shareholder of the company for no more than 25% of the shares of the company. We will devote a video for this particular instrument, EIC Accelerator, because it is more complex also in the way the proposals are presented to the Commission, and we need more time to explain all this in detail. The part of equity can reach 50 million euros. The aims, the focus of EIC Accelerator, the keywords are therefore scalability, employment, and also crowding, funding, and investment. I will come to this in a minute. And finally, these are the dates and challenges foreseen for the EIC during year 2021. In relation to EIC Pathfinder, the call for open projects is planned for May 19th, while the calls related to challenges are scheduled for October 27th. And these are the challenges foreseen: awareness inside, tools to measure and stimulate activity in brain tissue, emerging technologies in cell and gene therapy, novel routes to green hydrogen production, and engineered living materials. In relation to the EIC Transition program, all calls are planned for September 21st, and these are the challenges foreseen: medical technologies and devices from lab to patient, and energy harvesting and storage technologies. In relation to EIC Accelerator, there are two cutoffs scheduled: June 9th and October the 6th, although the presentation of short applications is required to be able to submit a proposal to these deadlines, as we will clarify in the dedicated video. Anyway, the challenges foreseen for the EIC Accelerator during 2021 are strategic digital and health technologies, and Green Deal innovations for the economic recovery.